Dude, I didn't know you were gonna roll up in a limo.
It's part of the, it's part of the whole persona, the brand,
What's up, buddy?
First of all, it's great to see you. Man.
How are you? I know we haven't seen each other
know,
forever.
You been good?
I've been
Hey,
good.
I want you to look at this. Check this out.
I know.
Look at this arm, dude. Look at this. I haven't been able to do this in 2 years.
That's
The
awesome.
rotator cuff surgery turned
This
out
is
well.
my guy Chad right here.
Hey, Chad, how's it going? Oh, man, I know we're live already. Okay, Chad, how's it going?
This is Dominic. Actually, should I say, what is it?
The Midway Gourmet.
The
Yeah.
Midway Gourmet,
Yeah,
actually. Not necessarily Dominic.
Yeah. Yep.
Dominic, and if you want to just kind of clip it on your front, that
There
works
we go.
too. Perfect.
So how's things, man?
Good.
Yeah?
Things are good. Things are good.
We're here at the OC Fair, right?
OC Fair. OC Fair.
Dominic is he's like a legend, dude. Yeah, I know he doesn't look like a legend. I'm not sure what a fucking legend looks like, but this guy is a legend.
Maybe because you've been around too long.
Well, that's true. That's true. Let me take these glasses off. But so, anyways, this is my guy Chad. So we film a bunch of stuff, and I know you've seen. Have you seen this stuff? You follow me? Restaurant Millionaire.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You notice how rude I am?
Oh, you're rude. You're
Really?
rude. Oh yeah, you're rude. No, you're not. You're not. You're good.
Is it real? What do you think about it? For reals? For reals?
Yeah, so sometimes somebody needs like an injection in their life of reality, right? I think we've come to a point in this world where there's a lot of non-reality, right? Everything is unicorns and and just like froofy stuff, and nobody wants to take ownership of what's really going on sometimes, right? And so it seemed like we're always catering you got to be careful about what you say, how you say it, who you offend. I mean, why can't we just do what we do, right? And just make ourselves work hard, do what we do, be professionals at what we do, try and be elite, be professionals, and let us just kind of do our thing, right?
Yeah.
And,
but it's interesting because so the way it works is, like let's say some of it you're seeing recently and maybe in the past, those are employee meetings, right?
Yeah.
So we'll film the whole thing and I don't even know we're filming, right? Like I'm just talking off of and then I don't necessarily say what to post either. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and so I'm a little shocked at sometimes what's being said.
Yeah.
Like the one yesterday about the fucking punk, right? Did you see that one?
I didn't see that one yet. No, I didn't see that one.
I'm like, well, if the fucking punk doesn't want to work here, then he should go.
Yeah.
And it's just what you say. It's just reality.
Yeah.
And I wonder, for a guy like yourself, or actually whoever else, how does that come across, right? Does it come across? Because I just see it myself, and I'm like, oh shit. But for you, and be honest with me, right?
No,
like,
yeah.
Is it like, I can't believe you're saying that shit?
Yeah, we have to be delicate sometimes, right? You hurt people's feelings. I look back at, raising kids. I just had this conversation. I know this is off of the restaurant, but raising kids is way different today than it was just 5 years ago, and it was 10 years ago, and what it was 20 years ago. My kids are a little bit older. When I say a little bit older, my oldest one's 24. My youngest one is 16. The 24 to 16, believe it or not, was a different spread of social media. They weren't really, it was kind of the tail end of high school for them when social media really got going.
Uh-huh.
And so the younger two were right in the thick of it, right? So it was like raising completely different kids in a different world. That's how fast we change, and I think that happens, that happens a lot, expectations. We hire in the restaurant business, we hire a lot of kids, right? A lot of high school kids, young college kids. And so you can see some kids, families are really engaged in their journey, and the parents are down, and they come to the restaurants or they'll come to the fairs, and they want to make sure their kids got a good job and they're working good and they're pushing them. And other parents parent differently, right? So as we kind of go through, I was saying, you have to be so delicate. I remember 20 years ago, you can't talk to my child that way. We're playing sports, you can't talk to my child that way. Mm-hmm. You're going to hurt his self-esteem or hurt their self-esteem. And then it became everybody gets a trophy, right? I mean, it kind of changed, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody. Man, life is about working hard, right? And sometimes we need to know the facts, right? And sometimes it's hard to hear and listen to, but sometimes we need a reality check. And managing people and organizations is difficult because you have a wide array of employees. Over the course of a year, I'll have maybe 900 employees over the course of a year. I have 30 regulars that work for me all year long, and then up to 900 locals that we hire at different events. And you have to be sensitive, you have to be caring, you have to be that boss that will listen. You have to be a lot of different roles, right? But at the same time, you have an organization to run, and you have to stay focused and keep your eye on the prize. And sometimes, back to what you're saying, we don't have time to sit there and kind of tiptoe around it. We just have to get to the point. And sometimes to make the point saves time. And right, the one thing we can't get back is time. And sometimes that point has to come across faster. And so if you're using that, maybe we got to get rid of the punk. Maybe it was just the right way to say it at that time, so that everybody understands that, you know what, maybe this organization needs to look at how we're doing things.
With me, and I feel, I'm just real candid, right? I feel, I want to say honest, and sometimes it comes across like, I'm a real asshole, I guess. I don't know. But for me, it's just real. It's just like, well, if he wants to go, just go, right? Like, I'm not gonna. But it's amazing the comments I get, and and I'm assuming most of the comments come from employee mindset. Like, well, fuck, you don't. Maybe you got a shitty atmosphere, or maybe you're a horrible boss, or the fuck does this guy know, or whatever. But anyways.
It's funny. It's funny. We have all the communication in the world. We're communicating with our employees through phone, through WhatsApp. Through emails. All kinds of stuff. And everybody says, well, I didn't get the message. I didn't get the memo.
Yeah.
So a lot of times they just want to feel like they're part of it. So communication, I know, is really important. But sometimes you need to communicate a little bit more to the point. Sometimes you need to be a little more indirect. But
I need somebody on my. I even do this sometimes. Like, I'm not the guy to deliver that message.
Oh, you can't.
I have somebody else do it because. It's just going to be too scary for them. It's going to be too hard. It's going to be too whatever, So sometimes I'm just not that guy to deliver the message. So it's nice to have somebody else that can do it. Yeah, you have a lot of that, right? You got a lot of depth in your organization.
The bench is deep. I've got several really good managers, and I try my best. Organizations that run well have. When I say a hierarchy, I'm not talking about, necessarily like I'm the boss and that kind of thing. I'm talking about you have to be able to communicate at different levels. And that communication is important as to where to seed that communication, and whether it's, the number 2 or the number 5 or number 6, to be able to deal with certain things. And because those people have to be able to earn and gain respect from the people they're managing and things like that as well. So I try and offer opportunities for them to grow, for my managers to grow individually, whether it's through managing other people, taking on projects, whatever that case may be. I try and give them enough rope, right, to build a bridge, not hang themselves, right? That's always my thing, right? I always want to make sure I give them all the tools they need to be successful. And communication's really important. And as hard as we work to communicate, I'll always hear somebody bitching about, well, I never knew, or wow, you didn't follow the...
I have a thing I say, you either don't know or you don't care. Which one is it?
Yeah, and sometimes...
And I know you know.
Yeah, sometimes we selectively want to listen to what we listen to, right? I said, would it have been better if I'd have just put it on a Sharpie across my forehead, so when we had the conversation...
All right, well, let me... Well, that was good. That was good, because I just wonder how it's coming across out there. Not that I care. Right? What do I care for?
I think people are looking for reality. I think people are saying, we need to kind of go back to where we were. Sometimes it takes a...
But on my side, I'm like, okay, well, this is just the way it is. This is just the way I do it. Who cares, right? I'm not even saying I'm right, so... But
a good leader...
And then what's the goal? What's the consequence if everybody doesn't like it? I'm going to get fired?
Yeah.
It's all just... information out there. It doesn't.
So I'll say
there's
that
no game.
There's something about leadership where I'll just kind of comment that a leader needs to be a good mentor, a leader needs to be empathetic, a leader needs to be a good listener, and sometimes a leader needs to be a son of a bitch. And sometimes that mentality, it might sound a little harsh, but within reality, you have to sometimes be that person with a little bit of a fist to say, no, we need to do things this way because this is the mission, this is the brand, this is how we do these things. And yes, there's other ways to do it, but let's not just go off on a tangent and decide that you're going to do it on your own because this is the way we've made this business successful. So I think that's important. So maybe sometimes being that hard ass puts everybody into a little bit of a reality check and helps them to stay focused.
I wouldn't know how to do it any other way. At some point, sometimes tough messages need to be delivered.
Yeah.
I mean, whether it's me or somebody else. And, and I think that's what's lacking in management in general. I'm talking the guy after me. I think myself that he's hesitant, right? Because of the environment we're in. You know what I mean? He's so hesitant and so worried about what the consequence is going to be that it enables him to not be the best manager he can be. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
I agree 100%.
Think about it. I'm the only guy that can't get fired.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I'm the only guy that can't quit either.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I wonder how much of that concern of am I going to get fired over this weighs on the decision, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
As a manager, I can't really put myself there because
Yeah.
I'm in a different role.
Yeah.
I mean, I can think about it, but how would that be with your managers, right? You say, like, you want them to deliver that hard message when needed, right? But
Yes.
do they really think that they could do it without a major consequence to themselves?
Yeah. So if it's when I say unsolicited, like if I go to a manager first, a lot of times I will actually have the conversation of helping them to how to have that conversation.
Yeah, because sometimes they don't know either.
Correct, 100%.
Because they could do it all wrong. They could go way over the line.
Yeah, for sure. So a lot of times when you know that conversation has to happen, I'll invest that time with that manager to kind of walk them through. This is maybe how you should approach this. This is maybe how the tone should be. These are some of the things that you should talk about. And then, it's up to them to kind of feel out the situation as to, at that moment, how is that conversation going? I try not to let managers go in cold when you have a hard discussion you have to have. I don't like to have them go in cold, but there's some times where I'm just not around and that conversation has to happen. And you hope that you've done the best with mentoring, teaching, grooming your team and that bench to be able to make those right decisions. But you know what? Sometimes stuff just happens, and then you got to deal with it after.
Yep.
So that just is what it is. That's part of owning a business, right? I tell everybody, it seems like the first part of the day, I fight a lot of fires. Then in the afternoon, I'm watching the fires to make sure as they're smoldering, they're getting put out. And then there's some times where we'll go to bed and the fire will rage all over again, right? And then you're back to firefighting the next day. Solving. When I say firefighting, it's really problem solving. It's really problem solving all the time. And this environment changes for us constantly, whether it's stuff that comes over through social media or customers that made a comment or disruptive or last night there was a lot of people having a great time here at this fair last night. Well, a lot of them probably having too much fun, right? So there was some issues last night, and you have to be there, great customer service, and trying to make that have your employees dealing with the customers when they're maybe having a little too much fun, what have you. So we do our best to give great service, great quality of product, and be there and build a team that other people will look at and say, hey, you know what, that's kind of cool, and we'd like to be like them, right? Not that we're always trying to do that, but we try and set the bar with what we do, and hopefully it's working out. I mean, it certainly seems to be working out. I don't know, it could all be wrong. It could all fall apart.
Dude,
2 years
gonna
from
fall
now.
apart now. You're a long ways from falling apart. But anyways, Chad, so I want to tell you about this guy. So how long have we known each other?
So this will be like 36 years, maybe 37.
So we've known each other like 36, 37 years. This guy, we started at the same time in the concession business. And, it's funny. I always think about this story. And, I had this Toyota 4-wheel drive pickup, and you and I, we were like trying to figure this shit out, right?
Yeah.
We're trying to how do we get into these events, and how are we gonna make some money? And you had a pasta trailer at that time, right?
Yeah.
Dominic's Pasta.
Yeah, the spaghetti joint. Yeah.
And Your sister was working for you.
Yeah.
And my sister was working for me, and we didn't know shit, man. You know, if you think back, we didn't know anything, right?
Oh, we didn't. We thought.
I mean,
oh no,
yeah,
but we thought we knew it
did,
all.
right? But we were just young, right? We didn't have any experience, so we jumped in my Toyota 4-wheel drive pickup, and we drove down to the LA County Fair, and we're just like, we got to get in this fair, right? It's one of the biggest ones in California, actually, probably in the country, right?
At that time, yeah.
Yeah, and you know, I don't even know if we went and talked to the office or what we did, but I just never forget that, because the reason that one's so important to me, because at the time we both probably had a vision, right? We, you know, of where we wanted to go, how we wanted to do it, how much money we wanted to make, and you know, we just saw all this, or I saw it all. I don't know how you felt about it, and it's like we just needed some opportunity. We were just young. We wanted my personal thing, I wanted whatever I could get, right, at the time. And it's so funny because now sitting here with you, one is you're like the only person in the amusement business that I have like steady, concession business, that I have steady conversations with. In other words, if this guy is the best there is, right? Like, you know, it doesn't get any better. It doesn't, you know, the experience, the quality, the team. He operates in this carnival here, and the carnival is RCS Carnival, which is by far the best carnival I know in this country, but could be in the world as far as I'm concerned, you know, with their quality and their standards and their equipment and the team and their philosophies, and so he runs all the food on the carnival.
No,
not
let me be
all
clear.
of it.
My wife runs the food. My wife's the head of the food. I just
No.
no, that's my wife.
That's
My
not
wife is the boss.
crazy. No, your
My wife is the
wife
boss. My wife's the boss.
coordinates all the food, but you're actually running it day to day. So whatever the case may be, doesn't matter how you get here, who's part of the team, whatever, but you know, you guys are on a whole different level, right? So, you know, he's been, you know, you've probably been president of all the organizations, and you know all the right people, and I mean, it's just a big accomplishment, although it's so niche, right?
Yeah.
You know, so here you are, you're literally the best in the business, but you're in a very small thing as far as the world, right?
Yeah, big fish in a little pond.
Kind of,
Yeah,
you know,
bit, yeah.
which isn't a bad thing,
No.
you know, but you know, it's I find this concession business such a mystery to most people, and that's why I wanted to have you here and talk about it, that you know, because as I do all this social media stuff, a lot of it I'm talking about restaurants, but a lot of it, believe it or not, people want to know, you know, how do I get in the concession business, and is there any money in it, and how do you do it, and but the more I think about it, it's a challenge, right? So
Yeah.
it's the fact of, you know how you said raising kids is different today, so is getting into business, right? Because it's so costly.
Yeah.
You know, we used to do it for, I mean, honestly, we could do, back in the day, we could do a street fair, I'm gonna say, for $2,000, right? I'm talking about, I go down to Home Depot, buy some tables,
Yeah.
I go buy an $80
Yeah.
steamer,
Yeah.
you know, shit like that. True
10
or
by
not?
10, up,
Right.
easy up 10.
Is that about right?
Yeah.
I mean, back in the day,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
$75 for the 10 by 10 booth
Yeah.
space,
Yeah.
you know, and now it's like, you know, what do you think it would cost somebody to get into this game? Not on your level.
Yeah, no,
I'm
no,
talking
no. Yeah,
about.
Yeah, we'll talk mom
I'm
and pop.
talking. You're
Mom
an
and pop.
accountant.
Yep.
And you now want to go to a street fair, let's say.
Yeah.
What do you think that? What would the
If
process
it's
be?
just a little street fair kind of thing, you could probably do it for, you know, several $1,000s and kind
How
of get
much?
away with it. Maybe
3,
like
5?
No, like on a really low level, where you're gonna go as a hobby, $7,000 to $10,000 maybe kind of gets you a little bit. You know, depends on what you're doing with your menu, how much equipment you need. Do you have to go buy a trailer to go haul it all, right? Do you have the stuff to do it, right? You gotta. There's so many
Yeah.
variables. You're in the brick and mortar business as well as the concession business. So for those of you that are in brick and mortar, imagine tearing your restaurant down, moving it 1,000 miles, and then setting it back up 5 days later. It's really hard to do what we do in the concessions business, but we've grown into it, right? We have the equipment to do it, the personnel to do it, the knowledge to do it, things like that. But it takes a long time to get to that point. I told a story not too long ago. My first concession trailer in 1987 was $36,000. That same trailer to build today, if it was apples to apples, exactly the same, that trailer is about $4.25 right now, easily $425,000. So
why do you think it's gone up so much?
I
mean, is it the materials? Is it labor? Is it just that it's better?
No, I don't know. I don't know that they're making. No, I think the quality isn't nearly as good as it used to be. However, the flash, the new things that they do to make the stands, flash the stands, merchandise the stands is a lot more different than what we started with, in the business 37 years ago. But reinvesting back into a business, it's expensive. So when I tell somebody, you go build a Subway, it's about $250,000 to go build a Subway, and you basically buy yourself a job. And I use an example. You probably got yourself an $85,000, $90,000 a year job.
If that.
If
you
with
own
a Subway.
3 of them.
Yeah, but if you get 200 of them, you're making a great living, right?
Right.
So it's all about economies of scale, and how hard you got to work. Problem is, a lot of people don't want to do the work anymore. And I'm going to tell you, I don't care what business you're in, you just got to do the work. You got to roll up your sleeves. You got to do the work. And you got to put in the hours. Everybody's like worried about personal time off and I got to do this. When you start a business, man, it's 24/7, 365. And yeah, you got to figure out how to make time and get out of the war zone every once in a while. But the reality is you have to stay dedicated to it. And
I think I'm still in the war zone.
You're in the war zone, yeah.
Later.
Now I'm lucky. I'm fortunate enough, and my wife, thank God to my wife, she makes us get out of the war zone every once in a while. But the war, it's like you got to jump out of the battle once in a while because you got to come back to fight another fight. And so, the same problems are going to be there when you come back. You'll have more problems. If you run organizations efficiently, you work hard, you stay on top of it, you kind of stay ahead of the curve and you can operate more efficiently. But I think it just comes down to good old-fashioned hard work and rolling up your sleeves and just doing it.
I think that about everything. But, okay, so let's go back to the equipment. So why is it so expensive? That's what I can't figure out. I mean, I guess everybody along the way, let's say it's the labor or the equipment, everybody needs to make, more money, but it's almost, and it's funny, we sit here and say, it's very hard to get into business. It's very expensive to get into business. But if you would have told me that 35 years ago, because probably the guys our age at that time, right? The Cassanacs, who else was around?
Oh my goodness!
The hot dog on a stick guy.
Yeah, the Barhams,
the
Dugans. There was 2 Dugans. There's still one of the Dugans is left, a different Dugan.
If that was 35 years ago, they were sitting at this table, and they're going to be bitching about how everything costs so much and it's so hard. And you and I, we're fucking, what were we? 20 something?
Yeah.
How old were we then?
25, 26?
Yeah, I'd say 25. And we're gonna go, fuck that shit. We're gonna work our ass off. We're gonna do it.
Global domination.
Yeah. and so I wonder if we're in the same. Are we the Cassanac? Are we the Dugan? Are we the guy? And we're just like, fuck, it's so hard. It's so, because we don't want to do it. But what about the 25-year-old? Because look, we say it's expensive, right? But $7,000 for a 24-year-old is like, what would it be for us, right? $2,500. I'm just saying. So he's got to spend $7,000, but he has a way better chance of getting $7,000 than I had getting $2,500 because there's more money out there. I mean, the wages are more. It just. I mean, I look at how much money my staff makes versus what we were making. Yeah. And it's like, well, shit, no wonder they're buying iPhones and everything else for $1,000 because they actually have a little money, right?
Yeah. My young son started, 18 years old, started a detail company, and he wanted, I thought it was great, little entrepreneurial deal. Mm-hmm. He made more money his first year in business than I did in my first year of business.
Well, yeah.
But I mean, right? I mean,
yeah.
But without all the investment, people just got smarter, right? They're just getting smarter how we do things now.
And the public, maybe the guys that are having their cars detailed, they have a little more money to spend on it,
absolutely.
So
There's
everybody's gotten
street.
better. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like they've raised themselves up so they can afford the $250 detail job to where 35 years ago, if I told my grandma I was going to detail my car for 35 or $250, she'd think I'm nuts.
I know.
You see what I'm saying?
She's like, the car only costs $250.
Exactly. So I just wonder, is it really as bad as we think it is, or is it a struggle? And let's just assume that 25-year-old's going to work just as hard as you and I did.
Okay. Well, that's going to be a real stretch for us to imagine that. But there are some out there that'll work.
There is.
Yeah, there are some
I have
out
a
there.
few of them.
My son
working
was
for
that
me.
way. He worked hard. Yeah, he worked hard, and it paid off.
So if your son, 25, let's just say 25, your son, great work ethic, entrepreneurial mindset, I believe he can do anything he wants to do, including getting in this. Yeah. Although, okay, so let's just take that for a second. So let's just say a guy young could get the money, right? Mm-hmm. He does have the work ethic. Mm-hmm. So how the fuck's he get into these things?
Yeah, it's hard. Somebody's got to die to get in almost. You got to start.
That's another challenge.
You got to put in
right?
your dues. You got to put in your dues. In the concessions world, in the fair space, in the event space, you have to grow your business, and there's not a lot of events that will say, hey, we're going to take a brand new person, new company, at a large event and expect them to perform at that elite level that we need them to perform at. And so you have to cut your teeth. You got to go to do a lot of these small events. Well, a lot of these small events, you won't make any money or very little money.
That brings up a question. So we're at the Orange County Fair. It's what do you rate this fair in the U.S.?
This would be like in the top, for sure in the top 5. This would be in the top
U.S.
5. In the U.S., top 5.
Okay.
Yeah, top 5 fairs.
So we're at one of the top 5 fairs in the U.S., and I'm asking the question of how does somebody new, maybe not even brand new, I'm saying, well, let's say they've been in business 5 years.
Yeah.
So how do they get in an event like this?
Yep.
That's my first question.
Yep.
And you just said that you got to pay your dues. I'm not a big fan of paying dues because a lot of people can't work through the paying dues.
Right.
So, and then you said the event wants you to perform at elite level. Maybe that's where the problem is. Maybe, and the reason I'm bringing all this up is because everything is exactly the same at the fair all the time. Now, here's another question, right? I'll wrap them all into one. So, you have how many locations here on the fairgrounds? 8 locations. I have 2, and somebody else has 5, and somebody else has 6. Why not open that up a little more? Why don't you have 6, and we open up to a new guy? And maybe he's not an elite performer, but maybe the public doesn't care.
They may not care. They're looking for something new. So I think in any business that you go into, you have to be sort of a little bit of a disruptor. So even in this business, I think this business is yearning for a little bit of a disruption sort of thing. It's maybe some new type of food that is not popular. So when I came in 37 years ago, spaghetti was not the fair food. I came in a little bit of a disruptor with something. It wasn't hot dogs.
But
it wasn't corn dogs.
Still not.
Yeah, it's still not.
You're still not going to find pasta.
No, you're not. You're not.
So why did you stop?
Well, that was a personal decision, because what happened was we decided that as I was breaking up and I was doing other events, I'd have to go and do multiple events at the same time. And I was raising a young family. It was hard on my wife and on my family for us to be splitting apart and me going to Northern California while they were down here, taking half of the crew, taking part of the equipment, taking the bunkhouses. There's a lot of logistics involved in this business. And I'll never forget, I told the story not too long ago as well. My 4-year-old son came out and said, Daddy, why are you leaving Mommy and me? Why? Please don't go. But I had to go because I had a contract. I had a fulfillment to make. And so what I decided was I still wanted to be in the Italian food business, but knowing that spaghetti wasn't something that you really sell on a carnival, in a carnival space, knowing that I could do pizza, and so there's a lot of ethnic in my roots and my background and what have you. I'm, of course, Dominic Palmieri, big Italian background. I still wanted to do something and be at an elite level. So I said, well, maybe instead of doing spaghetti, I could do pizza, still be in that thing that I really want to do, that I'm passionate about, but yet be able to stay with my family. So for me, it was about making that decision that my family came first, and that's what drove that. Not the business decision wasn't the precursor. It was about the family, and that's how that track changed. It got me into a different lane a little bit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I don't know if I believe it.
No, that's 100%. That's
And
very
here's
much,
why. Here's
No,
why. I'm
that's-
going to tell
that's
you.
a fact.
No, I
That's a
believe.
fact.
No, I
That's a
believe it.
And I'll never get the, by the way, the look
why
on my
didn't
wife's
you,
face.
Why didn't you sell spaghetti? Why don't you keep selling spaghetti? Well,
Yeah.
the answer is probably a financial one. If you boil it down to the day, I'm going to make more money or the same money. It's going to be easier. We're going to be together. This is the product that works there.
Yeah, but to
right?
sell spaghetti, I had to continue to go and split up and go do other events.
Why didn't you
to
just
make
sell
work.
it in the carnival?
Because, and that's a great question. So Carnival's a little bit different deal. While we try and do our best to create seating areas and things like that, pasta has to have a great seating area to be able to sit, and it requires
True.
space. And the one thing that, and you've been with us, you've worked with us on the Carnival before. You come down to Houston, you see that space is always at a premium, and rides take up space, games take up space, everything takes up space. The event needs space for restrooms and all this other stuff, and so. Some of those things we needed more walk-around food than we needed big seating areas that I could get at that time. So with the decision that I made at that time was because I don't think that I could get all the necessity that I needed to support to let that business run unless I wanted to go to other events and go play on the independent where they had the big seating areas and all that stuff. Now, we figured that out now. Coming back now, fast forward 25 years later, we're like, oh gosh, we have to make room for seating areas again because we've created and innovated, we should probably talk about it, we've innovated new foods that require the fact that we have to have people sit down, and we know that we need at special events, people need to sit down, take a break, relax a little bit, because now it's all about length of stay, right? The longer we get them to stay, the more money we'll gross. If we get them to sit, we get them to have a bottle of water, we get them to relax, as opposed to walking around all day long, they're exhausted, they go home earlier, they spend less money. So length of stay is really important in this industry, whereas it's just like when in brick and mortar, you're trying to upsell, and if your waiters and waitresses are good, they're suggesting appetizers, they're suggesting dessert, they're suggesting a pairing of wine, things like that. We're trying to get them to come at an event. While we're trying to upsell at each location, we're also trying to get them to stay longer, because then they'll come back and they'll buy more stuff. So the business has morphed, and it's kind of come back to where it was, but things are changing all the time, right? Things that we're doing 30 years ago, we're now doing them again, right?
Same thing with clothing. Goes out and comes in.
Just ask my daughters; they'll tell you, "Hey, Dad, that thing in the closet, it's back in, in style. It's back in style."
Well, you know, it's interesting how it all works. But so, you said something that what's the difference, in your opinion? What's the difference between being on the carnival and being at the event? I call it at the event, but you said you had a word for it, independent, right?
Yeah, the independent. Yeah.
So there's the independent. Why is it called independent?
You know, I don't know. That's just listen. I didn't make up any of these terms. It's
I know.
always been
I
that
know
way.
what it's called, but I wonder why it's called that.
Yeah,
right?
because
it's a bunch of independent operators. I guess.
a bunch of independent
operators. And then the
operators,
carnival is basically most of the time it's one carnival unit owned by a corporation, a big company that brings in all the rides and all the games
and food and whatever.
And they control the food inside that
space
of the carnival.
Think of the carnival as a mall, right? Think of the carnival. So the fair says, hey, you're going to get this amount of space. Well, this amount of space is, if this table is a whole fairgrounds, the carnival may have, this much space. And so this is part of the carnival, and everything else is part of the rest of the event. But it's all one event. It's all one event, though.
Does the fair put in the rules of you can only have this much food trailers, or you can only sell this kind of product?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. We follow all the rules. I mean, the event.
Do they all do that? All the events?
I believe so. I mean, it's pretty. Yeah.
I don't actually know that because I don't deal with those kind of contracts, but. They can't just. So can the carnival just all of a sudden say, "Hey, you know what? Let's throw up a little, cart over here." I'm talking halfway through it. This is a busy area. Let's throw it. Let's move something in. Can they do that?
I've heard that some fairs, other events have, X amount. You can only have X amount of food stands. That's it. Done deal. Once it's done, it's done. Every contract is different across. And there's, that right now, there's probably only about like 7 or 8 carnivals, I think, operating in California right now. And, the environment has just changed, quite a bit. We talk about carnivals, and independent and the whole thing. The reality is it's one big event. The customer doesn't see it as different entities. They see it as one big event. And so we try to be part of our events as if we are just average, everything. We are part of the shine and the twinkle of what that event, what their mission is and what their goal is with their community and their outreach. We try and support all those events in our community to be exactly as part of one big team. So I just say it because but we operate a little bit different because we have some space restrictions, right? Because we operate in, and that's what we were talking about. We were talking about seating, things like that. We operate inside a space that only has so much room. And of course, we're trying to maximize sales with that amount of space. And so sometimes it takes trends. And remember, some events we're only at, like 3-4 weeks at a time, but we might operate 20 days. And some things work. And if they work and they don't work, you got to revisit. It takes a whole year to come back to that event, right? To revisit it again, right? And then you may change it a little bit, and that may not work. And then you got to come back a whole year later and do it all over again. So sometimes it may take 4 or 5 years to get things right. That's why things change very slowly, in this space. But to get back to where you were, I think any business that you're in needs to have a little bit of disruption. You need to do things differently. You need to perform at a really high level, and you need to set goals that set you apart from what a lot of other people are doing. Because a lot of companies that are not successful get in ruts, right? And they don't keep elevating themselves and taking themselves to the next level. Everybody says to me, they said, "Do you think it's perfect?" And I said, it better not be, because when I get to the point that I say that it's perfect, I think my team and my organization then says, oh, that's good, we're good, no more. It's never perfect. It always needs to be better. It's got to be that 102%. We got to give that little bit more to push the limits a little bit more, the boundaries as to what we can do, how we can do it, without, of course, hurting ourselves financially, all those things, because a lot of that stuff, those all have to be factored.
Okay, so did we ever answer the question of how does somebody get into this business?
It's just a really hard business to break into, and it takes years.
Is that a
good
thing or a bad thing for the industry, we'll call it? Diversity is good. I'm talking diversity of products and levels of commitment and customer service and quality, things like that. Hard to say how, new people getting in, but when we say new people getting in, I'm just going to say to walk in and say, here I am, large and in charge. I want to be a vendor at I'll use this fair, Orange County Fair. Mm-hmm. It's a several $100,000 investment to do that. You're talking food.
For food. I mean, just to go, if you're a mom and pop and you're going to go and spend over $400,000 on a food stand, and then you have to have a truck to pull, it's $100,000. I just bought a pickup truck now, a flatbed 4,500 pickup truck is $83,000. Come on, man, that was more than my first truck and my first concession stand put together. And my first box truck. I had 2 trucks and a trailer. And so I more invested in one pickup truck that, by the way, doesn't generate any cash because it's just a support vehicle to pull the housing, the bunkhouses for our employees.
So the answer is there's just no hope?
I'm not going to say there's no hope, but it's going to take time, and you have to build it. But then I asked the other question. For somebody to want to come into this business and invest that much money to maybe get lucky and get one good fair, you can't make a living on one good fair. You can't do it. So then you have all of this money, and you might get your first year maybe 3, 4, 5 fairs. Okay, you're back to that Subway scenario again. You might have created yourself a job.
So what's the answer, dude? Is the public good with what we're doing, you think? I'm talking about the guests coming to the fair, right? Do you think they're good with what we're doing?
I think we offer a lot. I think that a fair is an amazing place to come together, that communities come together, that they can find a lot of stuff. They find things that they haven't seen before. I think that technology has taken away some of that sizzle because our kids are exposed to it at a really, really, young age. Like I remember 25 years ago, buildings were set up that focused around technology. Now nobody does technology buildings anymore. Why? Because all the technology needs in the palm of your hand, and our kids have it when they're 13, 14 years old. And so I think that we, as an industry, we're always looking for stuff, but it's a large investment to do it. And I'm not discouraging anybody to go into business and try and, follow your dreams. If you have a dream and you have a goal and a true business plan, a lot of people back in the day just say, I'm just going to do it. I mean, it requires financially a great business plan to really have things laid out to how you're going to do these things. And you have to forecast and budget.
Did you have a business plan when we started?
I did. I truly did. I had a business plan when I started. I had a great mentor. I had an uncle that was in the business, sold spaghetti. The fairgrounds in Santa Rosa.
Oh, yeah.
As a young kid, I used to go to the fair. When I was a young kid, I used to stand on a milk crate and I used to stir spaghetti in a big, 25-gallon pot. And then, and then I had another mentor was a famous Italian restaurateur, Emilio Baglione. He owned the famous Emilio's restaurant in Hollywood. He was a great mentor. And then I worked at an Italian deli, one of the top 3 Italian markets in all of Southern California. And I remember Mark Brankovic. He was a Yugoslav that owned an Italian deli and an Italian fast food restaurant, and the two of them operated together, and it was an amazing operation. And he taught me a lot about business, and I watched, but I was very observant. I watched a lot, things like that. So, to start a business requires a lot of dedication. Nowadays, it costs a lot of money. There's a lot of red tape, a lot of governmental intervention that's in there that you got to stay focused on. So you have to have the knowledge that it's going to take you a lot of hours to get going, because whether you're sourcing supplies or filling out government paperwork. I mean, God, there's so much stuff going on right now. And sales tax things, and now there's two kinds of sales tax now that we got going on, and one for the fairs and one for the state and all this other stuff. And you have so many things that are going on and regulations that are thrown at you. And we go to convention every year, and every year there's a whole new firestorm of problems that we have to address, right? And what do? We go to conventions to figure out what the new problem is, and then we figure the whole year how to figure it out, and then by the time the next year comes, there's a whole new set of things. So we're constantly challenged with all this other stuff that just gets in the way, right? I just want to come and I want to innovate great new food products. I want to focus on quality. I want to do great things that move the needle, and I want to focus on my food business, because that's what I'm passionate about, right?
Well,
But
it's funny because
there's all these distractions is what I wanted to just get at.
I agree in this industry, but I don't feel nearly the distractions in the brick and mortars.
Right.
Like once I get through all my licenses and leases and all that, now I'm just operating on a day-to-day business, and I can change and go whichever way I want, whether it's bigger, smaller, different food. I can pretty much do whatever I want.
You make those decisions yourself, and you can do it on the fly. When we make decisions, it's part of a much bigger picture, so it takes a lot of conversation.
Well, and it's very complicated. I can't just come in here and change my menu, for example.
Right.
I got to jump through 10 different hoops to change my menu, and then it's got to be accepted. It's got to be, and then they're discussing pricing. Nobody discusses prices with me at the restaurants, right? I just sell it for whatever the hell I want to, whatever I need to sell it for, and then we go. So it is definitely a different model.
Yeah.
Which is better, concessions or restaurants? Do you have any restaurants?
No restaurants.
Have you ever had restaurants?
No restaurants. No.
So, I guess in your mind, concessions are better.
No, I'm not going to say that, because we always think the grass is greener, and you and I have a lot of conversations, and I admire what you've done with your restaurants and how you do it. And I always, it's kind of funny. I always say, Roger Sharp, the Sharp Concept guy. He always needs you always need a project. I've known you for a long time. You always need a project.
You notice that?
I notice that. But you're innovative and you're creative, and you come up with stuff and you theme things and you just do things. And you might stay focused on it for just a few months, and then you're done with it. You got to move on. Some people need a project, and you're that guy that always needs some kind of project. But you find a way to stay focused on quality and customer service and building a brand and doing the things that you do to stay successful. So you get to see both sides of it. The only person that can answer that question really is you, because you get to see the net profit of what happens here, and then you get to see the net profit of what happens in brick and mortar. For me, I would love to say, I'd love to just settle down. I'm on the road 10 months out of the year. Mm-hmm. I'd love to be able to say, with what I've learned in business, I'm ready to go open up a brick and mortar, but I may fail miserably, right? Because it's hard, it's a tough business. But it'd be nice for me to stay home and not be traveling as much and be able to spend more quality time maybe at home and doing other things that I might, because we're changed, right? Our vision of where we wanted to be and what we wanted to do and what was important to us is way different in our mid 40s than it was when we were in our mid 20s, mid to late 20s. So those things change too. We find ourselves giving more. We find ourselves wanting to do more for the community. We find ourselves doing more for our employees and family and things like that.
I think it's just a deeper thought process.
Yeah.
For me, it is,
Yeah.
right? It's like, well, okay, before it was like, how am I going to eat? You know what I mean? How am I going to
We were struggling to make the
pay
payments.
for a house, right?
Yeah.
All of these kinds of things. And now it's more like, I know it sounds stupid, but like, how am I going to make a difference? And reality, for me, it's what's going to excite me, right? Because I get kind of bored.
You have to stay passionate about it. And that's why, so that's one of the things that I love about what I do here is I can be passionate about innovating new foods. The one thing that I'm thrilled about is I have this amazing, when I say all women, I've got great guys that are operational whole yards, but I've got this amazing all women middle management team that are young moms, no social media, can go deep dive, and they're all foodies. One of the things that I thought that I brought to the table was I excited them and their passion about food, right? Mm-hmm. So that has transcended to them, and they'll come up with me with ideas like, oh my gosh, what if we did this, and what if we took this, and what if we did that? And so we kind of talk about it, we'll sit around, we innovate things, but then the challenge is then, how do I bring that to fruition? It's one thing to come up with wild and crazy food items, right? But is it going to be a one-hit wonder, or is it going to be something that has some staying power? And then you have to figure out the food chain, and how to get you the quality and the quantity there. You got to figure out how to supply it. Remember, I'm moving as far as Houston, Texas, to all the way to the West Coast, right? So, I've got 1,600 miles in between that. I've got a food supply chain that I've got to maintain, and moving equipment and all the support equipment that it takes to do it. And so it's hard to do, but my passion, like yours, you have these different things you do and different themes with restaurants and what have you, and they look like they're doing great. And I've been to many of them, and the quality's amazing. And you walk in and you go, wow. I try and do that same thing, and I just kind of, I've stayed in my lane because that's kind of where my family is, right now. And so back to that, decision about quality of life. We think things a little bit deeper, right? And so things are more important to us now than maybe they were. I was, focused differently when I was a single man, starting off in business and partners with my sister. So I like what I do. I like to innovate, and I like to create things, and I like to figure things out. And so that's sort of my passion.
Yeah, the puzzle.
Yeah, right? The puzzle, right?
Well,
so
that's kind of what
this.
That's what I say this business is. It's a big puzzle, right? We get there with nothing. Like we get there with this table, and we have to put this piece.
Yeah, we got to look. We start with the four corners,
right? And anywhere from electricity to the plumbing to the, you name it. So I feel so fortunate to be in this or have evolved in this concession business mostly because of the education.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Like there's no challenge that I can't get by.
Yeah.
The restaurants in brick and mortar seem so easy compared to this.
Yeah.
You don't have power outages and internet problems and weather's a big deal out here.
Big deal, yeah, absolutely.
And it's kind of fascinating how that works. But for me, I'll tell you my vision not my vision, but my example of the restaurants versus concessions. So the restaurants are large amounts of cash, short amount of time, great profitability most of the time, very difficult to lose money. I'm talking on an event scenario. Now I'm not talking about yearly because you got all your payments and this, but if you went into an event kind of, let's say low entry level, at one time I'd say you'd have to be an idiot to lose money at an event. This is back in the early days.
Yeah, but now it's a whole different ballgame.
Now
the margins are super razor thin.
Well, but it's still because of the volume is so big, right? And I'm saying that compared to restaurants. I mean, you and I, we could go to a large event and do, millions, right? True or not?
Yep,
so
that's possible.
So when you're doing that kind of volume in a short amount of time, the chance of becoming profitable makes it a lot easier. So for me, the one thing I hate about this concession business is that it ends, right? What I mean by that is the event starts, the cash starts coming in, and then it ends.
Right.
That's what I hated about this
So we're
business.
operating in the reds. We're operating at the red line.
Right.
We're like this. You're going a million miles an hour. That you're just wound up here. Whereas in a restaurant, you're kind of like at 4,500 RPMs, and you're just kind of cruising, and it goes, and you can operate good. We operate a lot right at the red line, which is dangerous sometimes because you go a little too much, you spin it, and you're done.
Yeah, but so I hated the fact that in October my cash stopped.
Yeah.
My cash flow, everything.
Which means you
And
have to
then-
budget all that
and
money
then
that
let's
you can't
just
spend
say,
to get started the
okay,
next
so
year.
from October, so November, December,
January,
there's
and
nothing.
February, and
In
February
there's
really
nothing. So you
and
got
even March
4
is tough.
goddamn months
Yeah.
that you have to manage that whole thing, and I thought that sucks, right?
Yeah.
And that's how come I went into the restaurant business, because the volume may not be as much. It's not as large as cash flow, but it's consistent.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So although the summer months come, but you still are taking in some amount of cash to kind of help mitigate, insurance payments and whatever else comes up. So I always say the restaurants give me steady cash flow, and bigger than that at the time when I was needing to finance things and go to banks, it gave me a lot of credibility.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So then the concession side, the downfall on that one is, well, the good side is large amounts of cash flow, good profitability. The
But
bad
cash flow at a limited time, though. That's
right.
the problem.
The
Yeah.
bad
Limited.
part is
Yeah.
that it stops.
Right.
And you're trying to figure out how. That's the way it was me. How am I gonna? In fact, let's talk about you. How do you keep your staff? Right? How do you keep your management team? That was my big concern.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
if I had, if I needed to pay them 12 months out of the year, I could use the restaurants as a, okay, well, we can go work over there. That was always my thought process. But so how do you
It's
do
hard-
it?
it's
You
hard
have,
to do that.
what'd you say?
Very
You have
hard.
30?
Yeah, 30 traveling with me.
30 traveling with you. So when you stop, when's your last event?
After the Arizona State Fair. So basically
is
November 5. November 5.
So
we're
okay,
done.
so basically you got November, and you're January, and then you start at the end of February in Houston.
Yeah, but we start working like
No,
middle
I know.
of January.
Okay, but
Yeah.
no, you start paying bills.
No, we got to start getting rubby because it
No,
takes
that's
us,
what I'm saying. You don't have no revenue
No
coming
revenue.
in.
It's just money going out.
Right.
Yeah, money going
so
out.
that's when it's a real killer, right?
yeah.
This guy. How much it take you to get to Houston you're from Arizona?
It's almost $250,000
Yeah.
to get opened up 1,200 miles away. It takes that much investment.
Trucks and staff and drivers and
airplane fares and hotels and
deposits
permits. The health department, I don't even want to, that alone in itself is like the GDP of a small third world country to pay for health permits in the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. Unbelievable. The cost of 5 annual permits of anywhere else we go, it's 5x down there. And we have 8 stands down there, and it's super, super expensive. It's really expensive.
Well, it's just
to get started.
everything. I mean, it's just very costly to
Yeah.
go down the road.
Yeah.
And that's another drawback to this business these days. It wasn't nearly as costly to
and
get to the event.
DOT regulations and all this stuff, and getting, and breakdowns on the side of the road because you're moving equipment, and that just happens. We spend a lot of money in preventative maintenance. and all this other
let's
stuff.
get back to your help. So you got basically 30 people that travel with you. So how do they survive that 3-month gap? And even so, you go to Houston. Are you steady until November?
Pretty much. We have a little bit of time off. They get to go home for a few weeks, which they love to do.
Yeah.
They get to go home after Houston. Some of them go home for a couple weeks, like a week and a half, 2 weeks to go visit family, which is great. They love that.
So do they make enough money for that to hold them over, or you got them on salary or something?
They still get their
So
paychecks.
in those 3 months, you're still paying them.
No, not necessarily. So we're a seasonal operation. However, we take care of our employees to know that they can make it.
Well, yeah, that's
because they keep coming back.
So they make enough money to save, or plan.
Which is kind of like us. I have to make enough money to save and plan to get going
absolutely.
again. But here's, I think, what's important. Back to talking about building a team. If you manage well and you're a good leader and people appreciate you as a leader, they will follow, and I think they'll continue to come back because they like what you're doing as an organization. So I guess back to where we started 30 minutes ago, and anybody that's listening to this garbage is just like, you got to be like, want to just like hang yourself right now, listening to two idiots talk about stuff like this, about crazy things about life. But if you're running a good organization and your people, you will find loyalty. And I think that loyalty, I work hard for my team as well, and I think that a lot of loyalty stems from that. And I'm going to tell you, I've got great retention. I mean, they keep coming back year after year. I think it's because they like my wife a lot more than they like me.
Well, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah, that's for sure, right? My wife's amazing, but I think they enjoy what they do because we try and make it fun. We know that we got to work hard, but we also play hard. You know, we have some days off. We're really fortunate our route affords us to be off on Mondays and Tuesdays, right? We do a little bit of work on maybe on a Monday or something, but we have time off. So, you know, they get to go see things and see the country and go have some fun and take some days off and just sort of explore and have personal time, right? To go to kind of decompress and come out of this war zone, right? And then they come back to fight another battle, and maybe we're just doing something right that our team appreciates us enough to come back.
Well,
yeah.
Well, I mean, I think it's the whole organization, right? So,
Yeah.
Okay, so you got your 30 people, which is good. They got some time off. They make enough money to survive. What is just in general, not necessarily your people, but in this concession business, because it's very hot at times. What I mean by that is very busy, very chaotic, long hours, many days in a row, all these challenges, and then they get some time off. But what is a general, let's say, what does a management staff make in this? And just, you don't have to give me your people, but just what would you have to pay it?
I would say, they're probably making between, $650 to maybe $1,200 a week, to be able to do that. But while we're on the road, expenses are less.
Yeah, there's no expenses, right? They get all housing, all
their food. They're when you factor that all in, they're actually doing pretty well. They keep coming back. So
yeah, they can save some money.
And some of them want to work less hours. They don't want to work as many hours, and that's okay too. We work around that as well.
So you have 30 people roughly on your people that come back, management team, whatever you want to call it. And those are stand operators and key people.
Yep.
So now you need how many other people? You said 900?
Up to 900 over the course of the season. Yeah.
Course of the season.
Yeah.
So how do you get those people?
So back to my team, they've done a great job of figuring out how to reach out on social media. We couldn't find any workers in 2021. Brutal labor force. Everybody knows that's listening to this podcast. Even last year was still tough, not as hard, but now that the economy is tanking, and I'm going to tell you, it's tanking fast and it's tanking hard.
Is that what you want to call it?
Tanking? Yeah, tanking. It's spending is, yeah. And so the economy's tough right now. People are going back to work. So we had more people than we knew what to deal with. And so it was easy to find people that want to come back to work. So word of mouth, we do incentives for people that, if you bring a friend.
Okay, so I'm gonna explain how I do it. But okay, so let's just say you before this fair, before the OC fair, right? So you need how many people here?
We'll say 140.
140 people extra besides your 30, right? 140 temporary. I call them temporary people. Locals is what I call them.
Locals, yeah.
So when do you start running ads or
it's all done
reaching
social
out?
Media? We reach out.
We Craigslist.
All social media. With respect to communication with our past employees, we always make sure that we set expectations when they get their last paycheck. That if they did a great job, hey, we really want you to come back next year, and we want you to bring 2 more people. We incentivize them to make sure that they bring people back. So if they bring
what is that? What do you do?
It's something as simple as they may get
free cotton candy.
No. They may make $50 per person that they bring back. That makes it the whole fair with them. So what that does is that sort of empowers them a little bit to say, hey, if I bring 4, 5, 6 people, that's a couple extra $100. and I need to make sure that they make it the whole event. So I'm kind of babysitting those people, making sure,
Yeah.
hey, come on, if I got to go pick you up, oh, I don't have a ride. Well, great, I'll pick you up, I'll bring you to work. We incentivize them to
So
try
when
and
you
bring
say
good people.
when you say Facebook or social media, what
Just-
do you
it's-
put your stuff like? What is
No,
your,
it's all no. When I say it's all done through our connections we have, so we.
No, I know
create-
it's the people. I have a lot of returning people too. Thank God.
So we use
And-
WhatsApp. We use WhatsApp and a lot of stuff like that, and we build like groups of people at all of our events, and then those people communicate with us, and we get communication
So
from them all year long.
let's just pretend you have nobody.
Okay.
You know, you're gonna show up to OC Fair first year.
Yeah.
You don't have the depth.
I couldn't even tell you how I would do it.
Really?
I defer to the team because they're the ones.
Because I've done that,
yeah,
right?
we'd go Facebook. They probably do some Facebook ads. They probably have to invest and spend some money getting it done. We figured out a way to not spend money,
Right.
and it's really successful.
That's
for
the
us.
reason I asked Craigslist, because you know, like I've been in that situation. I'm gonna go up to Oregon. Never been to Oregon. I'm just gonna go up there with the equipment, and I need 40 people, right? 40 locals. I'm taking
Yeah.
6 with me,
Yep.
right? So I'm gonna land in Portland, and I got to start somewhere. So I go to temp agencies, but Craigslist has been done pretty well
Yeah,
for me.
and-
Now, I'm
yeah.
not sure the quality is there,
Right.
but at some point I realized I just need hands.
Right.
And then I got to sort the hands out, right?
And so
Like,
it may take you,
know,
it may take you 100 to get back to
Right,
40.
yeah.
And that's what's
But-
expensive. That's what's expensive.
But when you're starting at
Yeah.
zero,
Which you have to do
you
that.
know what I'm saying?
You have to do that.
But yeah, like we go to LA now, we do that fair, and yeah, a lot of that is returning people. It's shocking how
Yeah.
many. I'm gonna say, if I had to guess, I'd say 80% of the
Yeah.
people return,
I
and
have-
they like to look forward
yeah,
to it.
I have
you know?
grandmas. I have grandmas that started working for me 30 some years ago that I now have their grandkids
Yeah.
that are working for us. And by the way, the grandma still, well, she wasn't a grandma when she got started.
Yeah.
They will still come out and they'll say, hey, can I work at least maybe 1 or 2 days a week?
Yeah.
Just because I just like working with you and Kim and seeing everybody and just love the fair excitement and the energy. And can I come work a couple days? Now that they're in their, late 60s, they don't want to work and they don't need to work, but they just want to do it to do something,
Yeah.
right? And it's kind of nice to have them. And anybody that ever comes to me and says, hey, I'd like to come out to do this. I really enjoyed working with you and Kim for all those years. I'm not going to say no.
Yeah.
I'm going to find something for them to do.
Exactly.
I'll find something
We
for
do
them
the
to
same.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Like,
it's interesting.
You had a guy, I called you when you decided after, pandemic,
Yeah, yeah.
post-pandemic, I said, Roger, you got anybody that you think would want to work
Mm-hmm.
Houston? And you said, there's this one guy that I really, really, really want you should give him a call. And we called him. And he came and worked this year for us.
Yeah,
John.
good, yeah.
He did a great job. And you know what? He cared. So that showed me that you did something to him that inspired him, that motivated him to want to come back. He couldn't do it last year because there was some health problems. But this year he came back, and you know what? He was there every morning on time.
Yeah, he's an awesome guy.
Gave him all that's how
He
we
sends
build
me
our business.
every Christmas, every
Yeah.
Thanksgiving. He sends me a text, and
We have a couple.
wishing you the best.
Louie and Rose have worked for me for 35 years. Now they've retired. They haven't come back, but it started 35 years ago. They call every Christmas, every New Year's. They never miss my birthday, and they never miss my wife's birthday. Like clockwork, I know that I'm going to get a call from them
Yeah.
on a certain day and date because they care. Like, we build family out
Yeah.
here. It's really like a family. And, running a business, again, it's back to empathy and mentorship and all these different things, and caring and listening, and sometimes about being a son of a bitch. But, you have to have that personal touch with people to make them care. Like, I feel good about wanting to show up and come to work every day, right?
That's the goal.
That's the goal.
That's the goal.
That's the goal. Come on, let's talk
I've had
about something.
a
Let's talk
lot
about
of-
something good,
I've had
right?
a lot about that shit.
Right.
Over the years, right? Like, well, there was a time when I was running some restaurants. I don't know if we were talking much when I did Visalia and Merced
Oh, I remember.
restaurant.
Yeah, I remember all
The
those
things
days.
that I did over there were unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm talking so deep into the soul of everybody that was involved.
Yeah,
Everybody.
yeah.
It was literally life-changing times.
It was
but
25
that was-
years ago. You were a younger
Yeah,
guy.
yeah,
You were
right.
going
No
hard.
shit, right?
Yeah.
But that was like literally the conversations I have with just people now was. But my whole goal when I got there was like, I was really trying to change people's lives, and I'm not just talking about the staff. I'm talking about the customers and everything.
Yeah.
We went through these whole things, and it was pretty amazing. And it's amazing to think back, because I know for a fact that anybody that was involved in these units that I was running then was life-changing. I mean, life-changing in a good way, right? Like the memories and what we were doing and the goal, and just, it was pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, you try and build that team up, let them be successful in their lives.
It was an unbelievable amount of work for me.
Yeah.
Like.
As we get a little bit older, we get a little bit smarter.
Well,
we work smarter, not harder, right?
Yeah, but
although I feel like I'm working really hard.
It would have been nice if I could have, and maybe you feel the same way, if I could have got some people under me that kind of could carry on that vision at that time, but I just never could.
Yeah, that's what's really hard about organizations.
I don't think you have it with you either. I mean, your thing's will continue on.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about that big passion, that that depth, that
no, I got
connection.
I got a couple, one or two that I think.
You?
Yeah, I got a couple, one or two that I think really.
They're gonna get up in the morning and do all those commercials and shit you do.
Oh no, hell no!
And they're gonna come out and they're gonna get a jacket like this, and they're gonna come out with all this crazy food, and they're gonna do all that. That's you, dude.
Yeah.
I would continue on.
I hope so.
Yeah, I
hope so.
I don't know.
You just never know, right?
But that just goes to show you your talent, right? And I've told you all along, like, you should be capitalizing on that talent. And I'm not saying that in a goofy way. I'm saying that, that it's hugely needed in the world.
Right.
The leadership, the creativity, the motivation, and I applaud you for what you're doing out here on the carnival and for that whole operation. And dude, you've raised that whole carnival up. I don't know if you know that, right? Through the food, right?
Wow.
Those are great people and doing unbelievable things and this, that, and the other. But as far as food, dude, and let's just say not you, but the food team, because I know you got other family members in there, but there's just nothing like it. You guys have changed the dynamics of running food operations in a carnival. Because prior to what you guys have done, and I'm talking 10, 15 years ago, I would never operate in a carnival. If you asked me, I would go, I won't make any money, right?
Yeah.
It's
hard.
And food has never been the priority of a carnival. And you guys, your team, your family has been able to balance that out to where everything looks even, The food is comparable to the rides. You know what I'm saying? It's not like, oh, here's the fancy ride and here's the bullshit food.
Yeah, you have to have if you're gonna set expectations and you're gonna have a culture in the company, you have to run it. I don't care what kind of company, what kind of business industry you're in. When you set goals and you set expectations, you have to maintain that level across the board. You can't afford to say, well, we're going to run this one a little shoddy, we're going to do this. I use this as a great example. Pandemic hits, we get shut down at the biggest event in the country, the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo.
I was there. Remember
there? That was brutal. I mean, that was like getting your heart ripped, like getting your heart ripped out. We realized it was going to be really hard for this industry to recover. And so we sat down with my family, my kids, my wife. I was on my last load coming back from Houston. I said, I will be home tonight. You tell the kids 8 a.m. tomorrow morning at the breakfast table, we have got to have a family meeting. And that morning we did a SWOT analysis. If you don't know what a SWOT analysis is,
what is that?
Maybe do that. Strengths, weaknesses, attributes, and strengths, and your SWOT, SWOT, strength, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. And you actually evaluate your company on all those different things, and you see where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are, where the opportunity is, where the threats are. And we realized that we had a lot of challenges to overcome, but what we realized is if we didn't get our fairs reopened, we were not going to be a successful company because all of our business evolved around the fairs and festivals that were all shut down. Mm-hmm. So what do? We launch a mobile disinfection and sanitizing company. But it's one thing to say, okay, we launched a new division, we kept a lot of our guys working and we were successful at it. But what the most important thing was, is I said, we took this same level of operational excellence that we do in our food of our operation, and we said, we're going to do the exact same level of operational excellence in this operation over here. And it showed, and the people saw how serious we were about it, and they saw that what we did was important. And I think it raised the level of what other companies were doing as well. And we became one of the leaders really, really quickly in what we were doing. And when I say saving lives, helping businesses stay open, I mean, we did a lot of stuff, went way above and beyond just sanitizing and disinfecting. This was like a really big deal that I won't even, that was a whole nother thing, but kept me alive, kept my employees, my key people working. And we realized that we did something that really moved the needle and helped our fairs to get back open, because when we came back, our fairs had to have a story of the public want to know, what are you doing to keep us safe if we come back to the event? Well, we've got this company that's right in-house, that's right here with all this equipment deployed, ready to go. We're doing this, we're doing that, all these things that we were doing, and helped to establish protocols and all those things. So operating at a high level of operational excellence in anything you do, don't half-ass it. I mean, that's great advice. If you're standing on the chair and you're holding the rope and you're ready to kick the chair out from underneath you, don't do it quite yet. Listen to what I said. Always have the highest integrity, operate at the highest level of operational excellence. If you do that and you focus on quality, customer service, the brand that you're building, and always focus on what you do and not get distracted on all the other things, you will be successful, and the customers will come. I think people in general appreciate quality, and they will pay for quality. They will pay for quality. Now, there's a lot of things on social media. People are upset about the cost of eggs and the cost of bacon and the price of gas and everybody, you know. But the reality is people will still pay for quality and great customer service. So if you're in the restaurant business, you need to focus on that, I think, all the time, right? And you need to do things that are different, that differentiate you from the others, because don't forget, you're against everybody else that's out there in that community around you. Just like we're good friends, but we're also competitors. We are competing, when I say, for the same dollar, for that customer that's coming today to the fair that's going to spend $50 in food. Roger and I are going toe-to-toe and trying to take that money. He's on one end of the fairgrounds, I'm on the other, but the reality is we have to do it, and we're competitors at the same time. But it's important that we are constantly striving for that, I'll say perfection, but never expect to reach perfection, because when you think you've got it perfect, that's when I think you get lazy.
But that high level of operation and strive for perfection is really the answer of how do you get a stand at the Orange County Fair. And that shit ain't gonna happen in 1 year, right?
It takes time.
And so that's the real answer of you gotta be really, really good. You gotta be really seasoned. You gotta have something different. You just gotta be the best. You gotta be the best out there. Because this fair right here, correct me if I'm wrong, these are the best operators in the business.
Listen, I've been coast to coast.
If you can get to that best level, now you got a chance of being
I've
at
been
this
coast
event.
to coast. You know, I was president of NICA, the National Independent Concessionaires Association. I went and saw fairs and festivals up in the Northeast, Midwest, down in Florida and the Southeast, all over California. I've been to Oregon. Everywhere in between. And I don't know that there is a better set of professionalism and level of standards in the concessions industry. And I'm not trying to belittle our brethren that are in the business in the Midwest and East Coast. I'm just saying, I've seen the whole country.
Me too.
And I'm going to say that the concessionaires that play in the West Coast, and especially at the Orange County Fair, Orange County's expectations are so high, this event are so high, that they strive to find those concessionaires that have that same level of expectations and professionalism. And that's what you get when you have organizations that have a mission and a focus, and they stay in that lane.
Well, I think there's a reason that this is in the top 5 fairs in the country. It's because they're striving for that perfection also, right? That
absolutely.
Excellence. I don't even want to call it perfection, but excellence in what they're doing, and that is putting on an event. And I think if you look at all of the top fairs they're doing the same thing. So the answer really is how you get into the Orange County Fair or any of the top, let's call them the top 20 fairs, is striving to be that excellent operator, right?
You have to be at that level
Yeah.
because it's just when you're talking
and
about
the-
millions of people attending an event, you have to operate at that level.
Which means you have to have exceptional equipment, exceptional team.
Yep.
Really,
Safety
I say-
record with food
but
safety
in reality,
and everything.
another big part of it is they gotta like you, right? You can't be an asshole. You
Yeah,
can't be
yeah.
an abrasive, jerk.
Yeah, I always say
basically.
if you're going to do business with somebody, do business with people that you enjoy doing
Yeah,
business with.
well, and that's what they choose,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah.
let's just say I had exceptional equipment, right?
Yeah.
I spend $1 million on
Yeah.
it and whatever, and I come in here and and then I get here and I'm just a jerk, right?
Yeah.
Then you're not going to make it.
No, you're not going to make it.
But
It's-
that's same thing with your staff.
Yeah.
Your people that have been. If you're a jerk, if you're a real asshole, nobody's gonna stay with your team.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
And
I
so
agree, yeah.
that's why they're staying with you.
Yeah, and when you keep having that turnover, you can't focus on that consistency and that quality and that level of customer service, so then your business suffers. So if you're still sitting there holding the rope,
Yeah.
getting ready to kick the
I'm
chair out
gonna
from
kick
underneath
the
you.
chair out from underneath.
Right.
So, anyways, you wanted to talk a little bit about the menu, and this guy works harder on menus than anybody I've ever seen. I don't put in near the amount of time you do. Because I don't necessarily think it's necessary myself, right? And I did a video the other day, and it was about commotion. How commotion, I don't necessarily, everybody thinks it's going, well, not thinks, I'm just going to say what I think, right? So we create all this commotion, and I'm going to throw in new food items, I'm going to throw in specials, I'm going to throw in events, I'm talking about brick and mortar, we're going to do this,
A Grubhub
Mother's
thing or a
Day
Mother's Day,
thing,
yeah.
we're going to do all of this, and all those not necessarily work. I'm not sure if they really add to the bottom line. So I used to operate at after parties at the Paso Fair. I'm going to give you this little story. This after party, basically drunk fest is what it was. After the fair,
Yep.
the fair closes at 11. Everybody piles out of the fair, comes to my restaurant, gets there from 11:30 to 1:30. So I got 2 hours. Everybody piles in the restaurant. I got DJs, I got security. The police are hanging out outside because there's always fights. This is for the 12 days.
Yep.
I got all this extra staff. I'd set up different bars, because we only have one bar, so I'd add 2 or 3 bars, so then everybody would come in. Everybody had a great time. But honestly, dude, I made no money.
Yeah.
By the time
Chasing our tails, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the commotion. Now
Yeah,
I'll give
yeah.
you where it ends up. So I stopped doing it like 3 years ago. I did it for like 15 years.
Yeah.
Because it was like, let's have everybody come, back when I had more energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was fun. Don't get me wrong. Everybody had a great time.
But you had to manage it. You had to be there. Now you don't want to necessarily be there at 2 o'clock in the morning. Yeah.
So we're cleaning up at 2:30 in the morning. It's like, oh my God, it's killing me. But so now, get this. So this is the real numbers. We do about 35,000 extra in revenue for the month. Okay. By the time it was said and done, I made about 10%.
Yeah.
3,500.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's all good.
Your
Wasn't
staff's
worth the 30.
exhausted.
Yeah,
No,
we're
you're beat up.
fucking-
Your
dude,
staff.
it
You're
took us
exhausted.
2 weeks to
You're already
recover.
working an 18-hour day at the fair.
But listen,
Yeah.
this year, check this out. This year and last year, we said, okay, it's 7 o'clock. We're going to start parking cars in our parking lot, right? Because for the concert, because we are closing at 8.
Okay.
So here they come parking cars, $30 a pop. I made more money
Yeah.
parking cars.
Yeah.
Everybody goes like this at 9:30. We're
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude,
That's working smarter,
that's
not
what
harder.
I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So all of that commotion, all that party, all that whatever, and I find that with menu items too.
Yes.
So, okay, we come up with this menu items. It's all excited. You're on the news. He does all these news things in the morning. And, he gets up at 3 o'clock in the morning with the morning news. And you do a phenomenal job at it. It's a ton of work for you, just like my after party, right?
Ton.
You're doing all these things. I know it's great for the event. I know the people like it. You know what I mean? The guests. I know they want to try the new whatever. but does it really add to the bottom line?
I
don't know.
I've never been able to monetize it, but here's the deal: because I'm passionate about the industry and I'm passionate about my business, I've been doing it for years. I've never been able to say, I can associate X amount of dollars to my bottom line because I got up on opening morning at 3:15 to start the first hit at 4:45, and it takes that long to put all the stuff together, make it all work. Now, I've gotten really good at it.
Yeah, I know.
Of making the food look camera, television ready without having to cook it all in the morning. I get it done the night before. I get my guys to do it because it costs money to have my guys on staff and to beat them up to come in at 3 o'clock in the morning to start cooking. So we don't do that anymore. So I figured out a way to do it. I figured out a way to make it look right. I make it fun, but it's kind of what the fairs, what the expectations were, and now I'm sort of a spokesperson for this event.
You're the Midway Gourmet.
By default, I'm the de facto default sort of spokesperson for everything delicious at the fair, right? Because the Midway Gourmet, I don't really talk, Dominic doesn't talk about Dominic's foods. I talk about all the foods. They bring me all kinds of stuff. I talk about everything delicious at the fair because I just want people to come. If I get them to come and they show up, we will all make money.
Yeah.
It's just about,
I'm glad you do it.
about, yeah, I know. So I should send you a bill for that, right? So I guess when it gets to the point when I'm not passionate about it anymore, I'm going to say, guys, you know what? I'm tapping out. You know, somebody else needs to do it.
So he's the guy that's making all the hot Cheeto stuff, all the creative stuff, the drinks, the cotton candy on top of the drinks. This is the guy that's doing all that, which is
the Barbie-licious
phenomenal.
float. Like, we have a movie coming out, you know, we come up with like literally 48 hours before the event opened.
And I appreciate you doing that because honestly, I don't want to do it.
I know. No, a lot of people don't want to do it.
And I'm glad you do it, you know, but I just don't want to do it.
But by the way, it kind of blew up a little bit and it was exciting. People, and the reason we found out about it, we have a lot of family that travels with us and we have a lot of young girls. I have nieces on the show that are from age 10 and down, and everybody's been excited about going to see it. And I realized, wow, this Barbie movie's like, wow. And all of a sudden, because one of the moms that I have is a great manager, we start talking about it. I'm like, what if we did a Barbie kind of float? So then I'm like, okay, where are we gonna go source? I wanna do a pink and white swirl lollipop to do this Barbie-esque sort of thing. You can't find, I think I own every pink and white lollipop in the United States.
Dude.
Those are the things, but that's what I bring to the table to try and source those things to make it happen. Created signage for it in like 30 minutes and had it at the printer and then put it up on the stands and then give it to the fair to say, run with this, here's a picture of it. And then the next fair already, Arizona catches it and says, I gotta have the picture, we wanna start doing it now. So it's sort of that, gaining that momentum.
You're a master at that shit, right? Like, and I'm glad you do it for the industry, and I think the day that you stop doing that, the industry's gonna lose something, right? Because I don't know another guy. I know Charlie does a bunch of stuff too, but it's more focused on Charlie. You know, you're more focused on the event itself, and so I appreciate that. But so what was I gonna say? I was gonna say something.
Well, we're talking about menus. We were talking about menus a little bit, you know, and talking about, because I'm sure a lot of your listeners, you know, are in the restaurant business. You know, menus are a critical thing to do. You know, food cost obviously drives probably the number one thing you have to factor in anything when you're doing menus. But simplicity is important. I've gotten away from that because I have the equipment with the horsepower that I can kind of afford to do that. But there's a lot of, in the concessions business, stands are built primarily for a purpose to do one thing and one thing only. And it's hard to get out of that lane. I have the capability to do, you know, different things, which allows me, that's sort of my project, right? You have your projects, that's sort of my project, affords me the ability to innovate. But menus are super important. Keep them simple, watch the food costs. I'm gonna tell you, never skimp on quality. Never skimp on quality. Buy the best product that you possibly can and figure a way to feature it and bring out the best of that one product or all the products that make the flavors taste great and that you can then focus with social media and do stuff. I'm going to tell you.
Oh, I know what I was going to tell you. Shit, I just thought about it. So back to the social media, right? And I'm not sure how it's working out with the fairs and then, we're almost done. And but I went to a place yesterday in Torrance called the Tamale Man. You ever been there? You ever seen anything?
I know, but I've heard about it.
So I saw it on Instagram, And I go, I gotta go check this. They make some big ass tamales like that, right? And so the power of the social media is, I got there and there was 15 people in line. I asked around, I'm like, you been here? No, I saw it on Instagram. You been here? No, I saw it on Instagram. I'm like, fuck, everybody's new here, right?
Yeah.
Which was unbelievable. So they pushed us in with Instagram. It was hole in the wall, one location. The food was great, but the operation was so backwards, like slow, that it just, so that's one thing that we have, but the power of that social media was like, Jesus.
You have to figure out how to do it.
Like
I've been able one time to really capitalize on the social media. It was the last fair down at San Diego County Fair in Del Mar. We won. There was a huge food competition, over 100 entries from concessionaires in the fairgrounds, and we won. They had like 6 different categories, and then they had a best of show, and we won our category, and then we won best of show. Well, the fair did a big push on social media. I had my 16-year-old daughter posting every day, twice a day, because we had something that was really exciting to post about, was the hot Cheeto cheese chicken sandwich. And I'm going to tell you, this thing's freaking delicious. I mean, it's amazing. They had a Food Network chef and judge was the main guy. They had a couple local personalities that were the judges, and this one won. And I was the one time that I could see monetize that social media affected what we were doing at that particular fair, because the fair embraced what we were doing, and so and it just kind of spread like wildfire. And it's kind of the beginning of the summer, and so it was kind of like exciting, and kids were out of school and on the phone. What I saw was it changed the type of customer that we had. Normally I kind of appeal to that sort of like that like 17 to 45 age group. Man, I had 13, 14, 15-year-old kids in line for that hot Cheeto cheese chicken sandwich and the Captain Crunch chicken sandwich and all these things. I brought my managers out front and said, what do you see? I took them out front, said, what do you see? They're thinking I'm like trying to nitpick something. Well, the ketchup dispenser's a little dirty. No. The lights are not, no. I go, what do you see about the customer? And they're like, we're busy. I'm like, yeah, but what kind of customer is it? They're like, oh, it's a lot of kids.
Yeah.
So, and while they're there, they're snapping pictures of it. They're doing the whole thing. They were excited to do it. So figure out a way to embrace social media. And if you're smart, get a 16-year-old kid to do your posts for you.
Dude, have you seen this over here? The freeze-dried
candies? Yeah.
Who's that?
That's Chuck Dugan's son.
Like
Chuck and Irene Dugan.
Like, I don't know what the hell it is. I haven't tried them, but they're kind of lined up over there.
Yeah, I guess it's going well.
It's a big thing on TikTok right
now.
Is it?
Yeah.
There's
TikTok
a guy
is
who
big.
goes on live and just
I mean, I was like,
freezes candy and like it makes it all puffy and stuff.
Yeah,
and crunchy.
freeze-dried candy.
yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
I'm
But
gonna have to go try that.
it's a
And they're
disruptor thing.
coming-
Nobody's doing it at the fair,
And
so
it
there you
comes
go.
in bags, right? It's not
Yeah.
even something they're making there.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm
get
not
it.
sure. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
they're taking like.
Anyways, you might want to check it out.
Yeah.
They'll just buy like a bag of regular like Skittles or some sort of candy and just.
Yeah, but it looks like it's already like
Whatever it is.
pre-packaged something. You walk up there, you say, "Give me one of these." He pulls it out of this crate and
Yeah.
gives it to you. Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to check it out.
Yeah.
Dude, I appreciate your
Yeah.
time.
My pleasure.
Thanks, man.
My pleasure.
Keep up the good work.
We're
And
trying.
And,
Last 2 days
let
of
me
the Orange
know.
County Fair. I don't know when this is going to post, but catch us at the Arizona State Fair. If you're the Restaurant Millionaire follower, you come see us at the Arizona State Fair September 22nd through like October 30th. We'll be there for 6 weeks for your dining and dancing entertainment pleasure. And
if I didn't tell you,
yeah.
dude, this is Dominic, and he's a legend.
Stop that. No.
No, he's
this
a
is
legend.
The legend. This is the legend right here.
This
the
is
legend.
nobody better. I'm telling you. You don't believe me, but I'm
Legend
telling
and a
you.
rookie. Legend and a rookie.
All right, man.
All right, man.
Let's get to
Great
work.
see you. All right,
Appreciate
let's
it.
go make some money.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. Let's go make some money.